I was in a very high control religion, and it was full of restrictions. And what it felt like was, it felt like it was restricting my joy and my personal expression. And as I embarked on my own health journey and I started to get healthier, my mind started to clear and I started to engage my critical thinking and questioning, why don't I feel the zest for life that I know I'm capable of? And that was one of the things that started turning in my head that caused me to eventually leave.
I see. So again, this is not a business origin story necessarily. This is really a story about how you got started, period, right? And then we can link that back to how we ended up here.
Yeah, it is connected. Looking back, now we can see all of the connections, and it's pretty cool to think about it that way. And so when you say how I got started, it really did feel like that. It felt like I was starting my life over. And because of the consequences of leaving, it really was. I had to build from nothing. And so at one point, I began a meal prep business, and this was in support of my personal training clients who struggled with nutrition. And I found that a lot of people had highly restrictive diets, whether it was food allergies or autoimmune conditions. And the things that they talked about, feeling like their food was dull, they didn't have enjoyment in eating, and the zest was missing, it resonated with me in much the same ways as my own story in leaving my past life.
So let me ask you a question. Let's go with this idea of the zest leaving, because for me, what it really sounds like is it's almost like, you might not be old enough to even know this. I am, by the way. But black and white TV, right? We used to have a big black and white TV.
Yeah.
We used to watch TV with that, right? And then all of a sudden, color came out, and it was like there's really no going back to this, right? So the idea with this is, at least what I connect here, is this idea of your clients who had to basically eat the same things every day, bland food, because they couldn't put anything on it because that was against protocol, right? I believe.
Right.
Again, I don't know this specifically, but that's what it sounds like to me. So can you delve into that? What would that look like if someone just had to continue to do that? Now, from my perspective, it sounds like something that would be hard to continue, because it doesn't sound like something that you would do for a while, and at some point you're just like, you know what, I'm good.
Right.
I'm just gonna have to deal with these symptoms because I can't keep eating that every day.
Just like diets, something that's highly restrictive is not sustainable. But I love that analogy of the going from black and white to color. And that's very much what it's like for our clients, for the people who are enjoying our spices already, who are on an autoimmune protocol, because what that protocol involves is it is highly restrictive. And it's not forever, but the first stage of it is removing all nightshades, seeds, and legumes and gluten and so many things that are common in our everyday eating. And specifically when it comes to spices, black pepper, which is in everything, these people are finding they can't even go out to eat because they're ingredients and spices that are in everything. And so when they start using our vibrant spices that are completely compliant with the autoimmune protocol, it is like going from black and white, bland, repetitive, heavy feeling, dull food to
So I have a question now.
Okay.
So guys, I've had her cooking. It is delicious. I know you might think I'm biased, but trust me, I'm not on this one. She's got a bunch of people that say the same thing. You always talk about color in your food,
Yes.
right? Can you explain what that actually means? Because, for example, if you look at the Fiesta Fusion, it's a colorful,
Yes,
a colorful spice, right?
Yes, it is.
And it's colorful because, again, if you're not aware of it, all of our spices have farm-to-table ingredients in them, included as part of the set of ingredients that each one is composed of. So would you like to Tell us more about that.
Absolutely, yeah. I love to call my food rainbow food because I try to use as much color as possible, because what the colors represent are the antioxidants. And so it's not just pretty to look at, it's more flavorful and it's more nutrient dense. So you're getting more bang for your buck with a variety. And as far as gut health goes, which is where all of disease begins in the gut, all of the gut health experts agree that it is in eating a variety of plants that is the biggest predictor for healthy gut.
So let me even go further with this. So would you even say that the fact that we do use farm to table ingredients is even almost like an amplifier to this idea? Because it's one thing if you bought a vegetable from the store because they look a certain way, and I guess at some point, because most of us, that's where we shop,
Right.
you get used to it until you go to a farmer's market, and when you see like the size and the color of these things, they're vibrant and they're huge.
Yes.
You're thinking, wow,
Yes.
but that's literally what it's supposed to look like.
Yes. And let's talk about the potency and the vibrancy. It's not just about the color of the produce, it is truly about the nutrient density. At the farmers market, the local farmers markets, that produce is picked at the peak of its nutrient density versus the produce that you buy at the grocery store was picked underripe, because it needs to be able to transport, it needs to have time, it needs to not go bad. It's transporting in cold transport, which is stopping the process of it developing its nutrients. And so there really is no comparison between the farmer's market and the grocery store, even Whole Foods. Even if you're buying organic produce from, say, for instance, in California, we have the Cal Organics. That's the biggest organic farm in California. However, it's way up north. We are buying our produce that's in our jars is from our local farmers markets. So it doesn't get any fresher.
Tell me about, for these, there was a process that you actually came up with called the Flavor Synchronous Protocol. But even before that, can you talk about this idea of the 3 stages? Because my understanding, again, I'm not a cook, my understanding is that where this spice technology, I'm going to call it that, exists in a place, but it only exists in that place because of you being able to do what you do in the kitchen, which was you've taken something that did not have form and you put a structure around it, right? Can you discuss that?
Sure. My palate is such that when I taste something, I'm able to deconstruct it. And that helps me to formulate recipes, because everything I cook is my own recipe. Sometimes I'll have something at a restaurant and I'll go, ooh, that's good. What is that? Ooh, what is that note? What is that? And so I'm able to do that in the kitchen with composed meals, but I'm also able to do that with spice blends. And what it entails is understanding that there is a structure, that there is something that is a foundation or a base. It's a grounding note. And then there's a warmth. And some spices have a natural warming sensation. Of course, chili peppers are a warming spice, but we can't have chili peppers on AIP. So we have to find other ways to bring in the warmth. And then we have the brightness. The bright note, which is the top note, that's what we call the finish. And when we realized that bringing those 3 components together creates a complete composed feeling, sensation, enjoyment of a meal, we were like, this is what it is. This is the reason why the people who are on the AIP are just going, ugh, this is so boring, this is so dull, this is missing something. I don't even know what it's missing. And that's what it is. It's the composure of all 3 components.
I'm going to give my personal story here. So again, she came up with these spices, and I was actually making pasta one day, and I put the Fiesta Fusion on, sprinkled what I thought was a fair amount, wasn't a lot. I didn't think it was. And I remember taking the first bite and I was like, wow, that's hot. And I remember asking you, was this supposed to be hot? Like this
Yeah.
tastes like it has peppers in it. And you was like,
Right.
it does not have peppers in it. And I was like, that is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so I just want to say this. So that was the intent, I believe, right?
Yes.
So if that literally was the intent, and if that was something that somebody that's on autoimmune disorder AIP protocol cannot have, they are going to be shocked by that one.
And shocked and delighted.
Yes.
Because here's the thing about the first offering, these 3 spice mixtures. What we wanted to do was we wanted to think about what are the kinds of flavors that people miss the most on an AIP. And if you think about Latin food, it is tomatoes, chilies, cumin, seeds, all of these things that we can't have on AIP. So figuring out ways to replace those flavors and those sensations in the mouth is part of the process of developing the recipes.
So at some point, I remember you telling me a story about a client who had a mom who really almost, it sounded like a jail story, right? You know, from prison, we get our last meal or whatever, and we get to get whatever we want. And this person with that same type of mindset literally said, I want Avi's food. Can you tell that story?
Yes, it was a wonderful client, a couple, they're still my clients. And at that time, his mother was dying of cancer. And so she had a restrictive diet. Cancer diet is a restrictive diet as well. And I was able to work within the restrictions. And she was able to get satisfaction from food, which she wasn't getting before that. And so they were very grateful. But after she passed, they made it a point to reach out to me to say to me, we want you to know that in the end, she didn't have much of an appetite, but when she wanted to eat something, she would only eat your food. That was all she was willing to eat.
Yeah.
And it meant a lot to them. And hearing that meant the world to me. It's probably the most impactful feedback that I've ever gotten.
Yeah. Also, just for those watching right now, you had a best-selling book a couple years ago.
Plate of Self-Care.
Plate of Self-Care. And you also appeared on a Food Network type channel, something. Would you like to go into detail on that if you want? A little bit?
Yeah, of course. It's called Budget Dinner Showdown. And it was pretty exciting and wonderful the way that it came about. Sandra Lee produced it. She, for those that know, she's a very famous celebrity chef. And it was an exciting experience, and it took place over a couple of days of filming. You were there with me, and I didn't win the show. And part of the reason is because it's all about cooking on a budget, and that's not really my forte. I know how to do it, but I prefer quality. So I did a little too much, but it was a great experience, and it's on Roku.
Just to make the show is a big deal, right? And especially for someone who, you know, again, this was a last minute thing if I recall. It was like, do you want to do this? We think you would do well or whatever. And like you said, you know, those shows do have a format. If this had been more of an Iron Chef type of situation, I think you would have taken that easily.
Maybe,
but so right. So again, would you like to? Did we miss anything as far as how we got to these, or is there anything you'd like to add?
Did we talk about the freeze-dried and dehydrated components of our spices?
Go for it.
Okay, so we were talking about the potency of farmers market produce. And what we are able to do is freeze it in time, freeze the nutrients in time. And that's one of the very unique things about our offering, because you're not gonna find on a grocery store shelf anything that was so fresh. Our clients that are getting their spices, it's very likely that within the last week that was in the ground, some of those ingredients. So it really does speak to the potency, the brightness, it packs a punch, it really does. So that's one thing that, you know, there are a few unique things about our spices we don't really have competition for that reason. There are other companies creating AIP compliant spices, but there's nothing like this on the market.
Sure. Yeah. Now, for those who are wondering why am I here, right? I'm the technology person. You know, I'm the person behind the scenes, making sure that you guys get to uh, find out about these spices, to purchase these spices, you know, to
You're the
even,
artist for the labels as well.
well, that too,
You
I guess.
design, yeah.
And but just to basically make sure she gets in front of a video camera, and you guys get to see the smile. You get to enjoy the food, the spices, and just all of those things. So that's why I'm here. Is there anything you'd like to add before we close this?
Hmm. I think that it might be something that we share with our clients, that this this offering for us is more than just a business. We look at it like a living, breathing thing, and we look at it like a very heart-centered thing that we are sharing with the world. Because while I love to cook, I love to be in the kitchen, I love to feed
I love
people.
to eat her food too.
I can't feed the world, but I can ship our spices to the world.
Right.
And so it's a way for the heart that I'm cooking with can reach our clients, and that means a lot.
And I would also like to add, you know, one of the things that will happen in the upcoming months is we have some surprises in store as far as some more additions to these blends. But at some point in the maybe not so near future, but medium term, our goal is really to travel the world and find little niche things that we can bring back to America, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
and put them in a spice formulation that's AIP compliant, but you're getting tastes from around the world, so to speak. So
Yeah,
look out for that at some point.
it's gonna be great.
Yeah.